The morning rush at JFK International Airport was in full swing. A noisy orchestra of rolling suitcases, hurried footsteps, overhead announcements, and chattering travelers. People from all corners of the world crossed paths beneath the cold, white lights, each carrying stories and destinations only they truly understood. But amid the flurry of movement and voices, one object remained still. A navy blue suitcase sat quietly by the wall near Gate 47, unclaimed and oddly out of place. Most people brushed past it without a second look, too wrapped up in their own plans to notice something or someone left behind. Maria Santiago, a janitor at the airport for nearly 20 years, was used to this kind of chaos. She had watched lovers part, families reunite, and parents cradle newborns off long-haul flights. She had seen lives change in the span of minutes. Yet that morning, something about the forgotten suitcase snagged at her senses. As she swept the tile floor with rhythmic precision, her broom paused in mid-motion. The suitcase was slightly tilted to one side, like it had been set down in a hurry, and it was vibrating, just barely, almost imperceptibly, but enough to stir a sense of unease deep in her gut. At first, she told herself it was nothing, a toothbrush buzzing perhaps, or an electric razor left on by accident. She resumed sweeping. But then came the sound, a faint, muffled whimper, so soft that it could have easily been missed amid the airport noise. But Maria heard it. She stopped, again, clutching the handle of her broom. The whimper came again, delicate and pained, and this time there was no mistaking it. It wasn't mechanical. It was alive. Her heart began to beat faster as she walked toward the suitcase. She knelt down and placed her hand on it gently. The vibration under her fingers felt frantic and desperate. "Hello?" she whispered, knowing how silly it sounded to speak to luggage, but needing to say something. "Is someone in there?" She glanced around. No one seemed to notice. People shuffled by with earbuds in, eyes glued to phones or departure boards. Maria stood up and flagged down the nearest airport staff member she could find, a young TSA agent named Carter. Carter, not much older than Maria's youngest son, had just finished checking a family through security when she approached. "Sir," she said urgently, "there's something wrong, that suitcase, and it's moving, and I heard a noise, like a cry." Carter raised an eyebrow but followed her quickly. In a place where forgotten bags could mean danger, no concern was too small. He crouched down and pressed his ear close. The look on his face changed. "You're right," he muttered. "There's something alive in there." He radioed security. Immediately and within minutes, the area was cordoned off. A few travelers watched curiously, whispering among themselves. The suitcase, now surrounded by uniformed personnel, seemed even more out of place under the spotlight of suspicion. A bomb squad was not needed, Carter confirmed. No ticking, no electronics. Just whimpers. Sad, scared, human-like whimpers. Carefully, they unzipped the main compartment with gloved hands, every movement precise and tense. Maria stood nearby, hands clenched, watching with a mix of dread and hope. The zipper slid open slowly, and then silence. All eyes peered inside, and for a moment, it was as though the air had been sucked from the room. Nestled among a tattered wool scarf and the faint remnants of what had once been a soft blanket was a golden-furred puppy. No, bigger than a football. Her small body trembled violently, her ribs subtly outlined under her fur, and her eyes, enormous, brown, and shimmering with fear, darted around at the unfamiliar faces staring down at her. She whimpered again, shrinking back into the corner of the suitcase as though trying to disappear. Gasps erupted from the gathered staff. Even hardened agents who had seen all kinds of human behavior were stunned into silence. Carter instinctively stepped back, visibly shaken. "Oh God," he murmured. "A puppy? In there?" Maria's heart broke the moment she saw the tiny creature. Without waiting for permission, she knelt and reached in gently, cooing softly in Spanish. "Está bien, mi amor. You're safe now, sweetheart." The puppy didn't resist. It crawled forward, desperate for warmth, and collapsed into Maria's arms with a shuddering sigh. It clung to her chest, burying its face in the folds of her work uniform as if it had finally found shelter from a storm too cruel to endure. Beneath the puppy's fragile body, tucked into the folds of the scarf, was a folded piece of paper. Carter picked it up with gloved fingers and opened it carefully. The writing was shaky and blotched as if written in haste or pain. His voice trembled slightly as he read it aloud. "Please, don't be angry. Her name is Daisy. She's 3 months old. I didn't know what else to do. I lost my job. I lost my home. I thought I could find someone kind here, someone who might take her. She's all I had. Please don't let her be alone. Please. Lover. I'm sorry." The letter was stained with unmistakable tear marks. A single tear slid down Maria's cheek as she listened. The room had fallen silent again, except for the gentle whimpering of Daisy, who was now warming in her arms. The security supervisor cleared his throat and ordered the suitcase to be logged and examined, but even his usual stern tone had softened. Carter looked at Maria and asked quietly, "Do you want to hold on to her for now, until we figure out what to do?" Maria nodded without hesitation. "She needs someone, right now, and I'm here." Daisy didn't make a sound as Maria gently rocked her back and forth, instinctively soothing her like a child. Her little body began to settle and her eyes, those wide, broken eyes, slowly started to close, lulled by the warmth and safety she had been longing for. All around them, life at the airport moved on. Boarding calls resumed, announcements rang out, and suitcases rolled across the tiles. But in that small, quiet moment near Gate 47, something deeply human unfolded. A puppy abandoned by desperation, a stranger who chose kindness, and a letter that spoke louder than words. The puppy, now known to the airport staff as Daisy, rested with her eyes closed, her tiny chest rising and falling in gentle rhythm against Maria's uniform. Maria sat on a bench just beyond the restricted gate area, cradling the trembling pup in her arms as if she were made of porcelain. A TSA jacket had been draped gently over Daisy to keep her warm, and Maria's calloused hand moved in slow, comforting strokes over her fur. Around them, the airport was as alive as ever. Children crying in security lines, business travelers speed-walking with phones pressed to their ears, and announcements echoing through the terminal. But for Maria, the world had narrowed to a quiet space around this fragile life entrusted to her. Carter returned with 2 cups of coffee, handing one to Maria before sitting beside her. "Still shaking?" he asked, nodding toward Daisy. Maria didn't look away from the puppy. "Only a little. Not as bad as when we found her. Poor thing was frozen with fear." "She's lucky you were there," Carter said. "Lucky someone noticed." Maria sipped the coffee slowly, her eyes heavy with questions. "Do we have any leads? On who left her? That note? It sounded like someone in real pain." Carter shook his head, frustrated. "No ID, no name, no fingerprints on the letter, just smudged ink and water damage. We're pulling security footage now, but you know how it is. Thousands of faces, luggage moving every second, and the cameras at Gate 47 aren't exactly crystal clear." Maria frowned. "Someone left her on purpose, but they didn't want to hurt her. They wanted someone to help her, that's why they chose the airport. More eyes, more chances." "Still doesn't make it okay," Carter replied. "She could have suffocated in that bag, or frozen, or worse." Maria nodded silently, her throat tightening. There was no denying the cruelty of putting a living creature inside a zipped suitcase. Yet the note, it wasn't the kind of letter written by a monster. It was a plea, a cry for help disguised as an apology, and Maria couldn't stop thinking about the hands that had folded that note, the eyes that had cried those tears, the person who had whispered Daisy's name one last time before vanishing into a crowd of strangers. As if hearing her name, Daisy, stirred in Maria's lap and gave a weak, high-pitched whine. Maria lifted the puppy slightly and pressed her nose gently to the top of her head. "You're safe now, little one," she whispered. "No more bags, no more hiding." Carter looked over, visibly moved. "Do you have dogs?" he asked. "Not anymore," Maria said softly. "Used to. We had a German shepherd named Luna growing up. She followed me everywhere. School, grocery store, even the church steps. When she died, I cried like I'd lost a part of myself. Haven't had the heart to get another since. Carter hesitated, then leaned forward with a glance around the terminal. What happens to her now? Officially, he asked. Is animal control coming? Maria stiffened. They're taking her? It's protocol, Carter said with a sigh. Unclaimed animal left behind. We notify animal services and they pick them up. Maria's arms instinctively tightened around Daisy. They'll take her to a shelter? If we're lucky. Could be a no-kill one, but we can't guarantee that, Carter admitted. Is there any way, Maria began, voice faltering. Any way I could keep her, at least until we know more? Carter looked at her for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. Let me check with my supervisor. While he stepped aside to make the call, Maria watched Daisy shift and nuzzle closer into her body warmth. The connection between them had formed quickly, fueled by something more powerful than instinct. It was recognition, as if two wounded souls had found each other at just the right moment. Maria had felt alone lately. Her kids grown and moved away, her days long and quiet. Her husband gone 5 years now. There was a stillness to her life that not even time could fill. And now, here was this tiny creature, so full of uncertainty and fear, who needed someone to believe in her. Carter returned after a few minutes, his expression unreadable. Okay, he said at last. Here's the deal. They'll give you 72 hours. You can foster her temporarily. After that, unless someone comes forward or she's claimed, she has to be turned over to the city shelter. Maria nodded slowly. 3 days. Carter crouched beside her, placing his hand gently on Daisy's paw. It's something. She won't go back in a cage, Maria said. Not after that suitcase. Then let's hope something changes in the next 72 hours, he said. We'll keep reviewing footage, file an official report, maybe someone comes forward. Maria looked down at Daisy, who now slept peacefully against her heart, and thought, even if no one did, she wasn't going to let this little girl go easily. After her shift, Maria wrapped Daisy in her old cardigan and walked through the terminal, like a mother carrying her child home from the hospital. The looks from other travelers ranged from curious to admiring, but none asked questions. Somehow the sight of this exhausted woman with a puppy wrapped close to her chest felt right. Back at her apartment in Queens, Maria prepared a makeshift bed with a pillow and an old towel. She filled a bowl with warm water and poured a little milk into a saucer. Daisy sniffed cautiously at first, but soon began to drink. Maria watched every movement with tenderness, her eyes misting. That night, after Daisy had been bathed and dried with the softest towel Maria owned, she nestled into a small blanket beside the couch. Maria sat nearby watching television she wasn't really paying attention to, her gaze drifting constantly to the small sleeping form on the floor. The room felt different, softer, warmer, alive. As she turned out the lights and got ready for bed, Maria paused at the door and looked back. Good night, Daisy, she whispered. You're not lost anymore. And somewhere in a city that never slept, someone else might have been lying awake in a cold place, wondering if they had done the right thing, hoping that letter had found its way into the hands of someone kind. The morning sunlight filtered gently through the sheer curtains of Maria's apartment, casting soft gold patterns across the hardwood floor. Daisy was curled in a tight ball near the foot of the couch, her chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. Her breathing no longer labored like it had been the day before. The quiet hum of the city outside seemed to fade as Maria stood near the window, her coffee cooling in her hands as her thoughts wandered far beyond the skyline. She couldn't shake the letter from her mind, the haunting words written in desperation, guilt and sorrow. She'd reread the note at least a dozen times, each time uncovering a new fragment of heartbreak tucked between the lines. Her name is Daisy. Please don't hate me. I had no choice. She deserves better than what I can give. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger. Please, someone kind, take care of her. I love her. No name, No return address, just an unraveling heart sealed with a plea. Maria had placed it gently into a plastic sleeve and tucked it into her work bag like it was a fragile piece of evidence. And in many ways it was. Not in a legal sense, but in an emotional one. It held the fingerprints of someone broken, and Maria needed to understand why. Her phone buzzed, jarring her from her thoughts. It was Carter. "Hey," he said when she answered. "I've got something for you. You free to swing by the terminal later today?" Maria's pulse quickened. "What is it?" "Security footage. We isolated a window between 8 and 8:30 a.m. yesterday. There's someone I want you to see." She glanced at Daisy, who had stirred from sleep and was looking up at her with bleary eyes and floppy ears. "We'll be there." Later that morning, Maria arrived at the airport with Daisy swaddled in a soft sling carrier against her chest. Several workers who had witnessed the scene from the day before smiled warmly and asked about the puppy's recovery. Daisy was already becoming something of a local celebrity, a tiny beacon of resilience with soft eyes and a brave heart. In the security room, Carter pulled up the footage on a monitor. The image was grainy but clear enough to recognize shapes and movements. He rewound the timestamp to 8:12 a.m. A young woman came into view near Gate 47. She wore a gray hoodie pulled up tight, a black backpack, and she held a small, hard-shell suitcase, the same one Daisy had been found in. Maria leaned in, heart pounding. The woman looked around nervously. She adjusted the strap on her shoulder, then bent down near a bench and quietly slid the suitcase beneath it. A moment passed where she simply stood there, staring at the bag, frozen. Her hands trembled, one clutching a piece of paper. "She's holding the letter," Maria whispered. Then, without looking back, the woman placed the note atop the suitcase, pulled her hood tighter and walked away, disappearing into the stream of passengers heading toward the exit. "Can we zoom in?" Maria asked. Carter tried, but the resolution only allowed for a hazy view of her face. Young, pale, maybe early 20s. No ID tags, no ticket logs under her image. "We checked the boarding manifests. She didn't get on any flights." "So, she wasn't flying," Maria murmured. "She just came here to leave Daisy." Carter nodded solemnly. "Looks that way." Maria stared at the screen. She looked like she was saying goodbye to a part of herself. Carter crossed his arms. What kind of situation makes someone do that? Walk into an airport, abandon their dog in a suitcase and walk away like they're being hunted? Maria thought of the trembling hands, the bowed head, the way she hovered almost like she wanted to turn back but couldn't. Desperation, she said quietly. And shame. She didn't want to hurt Daisy. She wanted someone else to help her when she couldn't anymore. They fell silent for a few moments, the weight of it all pressing down like fog. Then Carter broke the silence. "You want to check local shelters? Hospitals? Maybe there's a caseworker or a facility where someone's reported missing or in crisis." Maria hesitated. "Yes, and women's shelters too. This isn't just about a dog, this is about someone crying out for help and no one hearing it." The rest of the day was a blur of phone calls, hold music, and long conversations with overworked shelter employees. Maria drove across parts of the city she hadn't visited in years, old community centers, temporary housing shelters, even a neighborhood clinic where staff took down Daisy's description and promised to call if anything matched. Everyone wanted to help, but no one had answers. At one of the shelters in Brooklyn, a kind woman named Janine paused as Maria shared the story. She glanced down at the carrier where Daisy peeked out with wide, trusting eyes. "That's her name?" Janine asked. Maria nodded. It was written in the letter. Janine's eyes softened. "There was a young woman here last week, barely 20 if that. Said she had to leave her place. Told me she was staying with a friend for a few nights, but she didn't want to talk much, just cried a lot. Did she mention a dog? No, but she kept touching something in her hoodie pocket. Said she had to say goodbye to someone before it was too late. I assumed it was a boyfriend or a sibling." "Do you remember her name?" Janine thought for a long moment. "She signed in as LEW, that's all I've got. No last name, no phone number." Maria quickly noted it down. Even a single initial felt like hope. As she drove home, Daisy nestled against her once more. Maria whispered, "We're getting closer, little one. Hang on." That evening, Maria set Daisy on the couch and logged into every social media platform she could think of. She searched hashtags: lost dog, Daisy, the pup, suitcase puppy, airport rescue. She scrolled through threads and posts, searching for anyone mentioning a girl named Ellie who'd had to give up her pet recently. Nothing matched. Yet. She decided to post her own story. A photo of Daisy resting on her blanket, captioned with the words, "Found abandoned in a suitcase at JFK. Her name is Daisy. We believe someone left her out of heartbreak, not cruelty. If you're out there or you know who might have done this, she's safe now. Please reach out, no judgment, just love." By midnight, the post had already begun gaining traction. Dozens of comments, hundreds of likes, messages from strangers, offering support, tips, and shared heartbreak. Maria sat beside Daisy as the city buzzed quietly outside. For the first time in years, she felt like she had a purpose again. Not just to care for this fragile creature, but to help piece together a broken story that deserved an ending filled with hope. The next morning arrived quietly, with soft rain tapping against the windows and the scent of damp earth lingering in the air. Maria sat at her kitchen table, her laptop open, the screen filled with messages from people all over the country. Her story had gone viral overnight. Daisy's photo, the tiny shivering puppy tucked in a blanket, her big brown eyes staring into the camera, had struck a chord deep in the hearts of thousands. But as Maria scrolled through the kind words, offers to adopt, and prayers for both Daisy and the mysterious woman who left her behind, her mind stayed focused on one thing: finding Ellie. She was certain now that the name in the shelter sign-in log had been real: Ellie W. Whoever she was, she hadn't abandoned Daisy out of indifference. She'd done it because she believed she had no other choice. And Maria couldn't stop imagining the girl's trembling hands setting the suitcase down, the tear-streaked face walking away. Maria clicked through the messages again until one caught her eye. "Hi. I think I might know who the girl is. I don't want to assume, but this sounds a lot like my friend Ellie from high school. She had a pup named Daisy. Please message me back." Maria's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers trembled slightly as she replied, "Hi, this is Maria. I have Daisy. She's safe and doing well. Please tell me more about Ellie." The response came almost instantly. "I haven't seen her in person in a few months. We used to be close, but after she left school, we kind of lost touch. I heard through a friend that she was living with someone who wasn't kind to her. She got quiet, withdrawn. Then she dropped off social media. I only saw her post once, like a month ago. Something about feeling like she was suffocating and needing to let go of everything, even love." Maria's heart twisted. That lined up too perfectly with the desperation in the letter. "Do you know where she might be?" "I don't, but I can ask around. Her last name is Whitaker. Ellie Whitaker." Finally, a name. A real, full name. Maria thanked her, then immediately opened a new browser tab. She started searching. Ellie Whitaker, New York City, social media, articles, public records. The name wasn't uncommon, but one profile stood out. It hadn't been updated in months, but the bio read, "Living one day at a time. Daisy's human." There she was. Maria clicked on the only photo. A candid shot of Ellie sitting in the grass, her arms around a tiny, floppy-eared puppy. Daisy. The image hit Maria like a freight train. There was love in that frame. Undeniable, unfiltered love. Daisy was licking Ellie's cheek, and Ellie was laughing, her eyes closed, head tilted back in pure joy. But now the girl in the photo was missing, both online and in the world. Maria took a deep breath and picked up her phone. She called Carter, got a last name, Whitaker. First name Ellie. Can you run a check? She might have used a shelter recently or had a hospital visit. Maybe even police reports. Anything. I'll see what I can do, Carter said. This might take a little time. I'll wait. In the hours that followed, Maria sat beside Daisy and told her stories she'd never shared with anyone. About her own loneliness, her failed relationships, the miscarried child she never named but still dreamed about how she thought she'd given up on having a purpose, until a suitcase clicked open and revealed a life that needed her. Daisy, resting her chin on Maria's thigh, listened quietly, offering the kind of silent comfort only a dog could give. Later that evening, Carter called back. "Got something," he said. "Ellie Whitaker checked into Bellevue Hospital a week ago, voluntarily. She was placed on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. No police report. Just exhaustion. The doctor's notes say she was disoriented, severely malnourished, and emotionally unstable. She was released 4 days ago." Maria clutched the phone tighter. "Do you know where she went?" "No forwarding address, but she listed an emergency contact, a shelter in Queens. I'll text you the name." The second she got the message, Maria was already grabbing Daisy's leash. The shelter was modest and quiet, a converted church basement nestled between aging apartment buildings. The staff was kind, cautious at first, but once Maria explained the story and showed them the picture of Ellie and Daisy, their expressions softened. "She stayed here 2 nights, the woman at the desk said. Kept mostly to herself. Left early yesterday morning. Said she had a job interview and needed to get her life back together." "Did she mention Daisy?" The woman nodded, her smile faint. "Every time she talked in her sleep, she said that name. Daisy. Said she was sorry." Maria's chest ached. "Do you think she'll come back?" The woman hesitated. "She left her bag here in the locker room. Said she'd be back for it." "Can I leave her a note?" Maria asked. "Something to let her know Daisy's okay?" The woman nodded and handed her a blank sheet of paper. Maria sat at one of the tables, her hands trembling as she wrote, "Dear Ellie, you don't know me, but I know your heart. I saw it in the way you wrapped Daisy in a blanket, in the words you left behind, written with tears and love. I want you to know she's safe, warm, fed, loved. She's with me now, and I promise you, I'll protect her the way you always tried to. But more than that, Ellie, I want you to be safe. I don't know what you've been through, but I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning, to feel like you can't carry the weight anymore. I've been there, and I'm still standing. You can be too, if you ever want to see Daisy again, or if you just need a friend. I'm here, no judgment, just hope, just healing. Just 2 hearts waiting to meet the third. With love, Maria, 9/17. Maria folded the letter and handed it to the staff member, who promised to give it to Ellie the moment she returned. As she stepped back out into the rainy night, Daisy nestled close, a warmth against her chest. For the first time in days, Maria felt like they were close, so close to healing not just the heart of a tiny puppy, but of the girl who had loved her enough to let her go. 2 weeks had passed since Maria left the letter at the shelter. Each day that followed had stretched into long silences filled with hope, doubt, and the quiet ache of waiting. Maria kept her phone beside her at all times, checking it even during her shifts, her heart skipping each time it vibrated or lit up with a new notification. But there was nothing from Ellie. Daisy had changed, though. The little puppy had grown more confident. Her ribs no longer showed. Her tail wagged freely when Maria came home from work. She followed Maria from room to room, curling up at her feet when she sat and nudging her hand with her nose when she needed affection. She had a favorite spot on the windowsill where she sat and watched the outside world, as if hoping her human would come walking by at any moment. Maria tried to prepare herself for the possibility that Ellie might never come back. Maybe she'd moved on. Maybe she was afraid. Maybe she thought Daisy was better off without her. But deep down, Maria believed otherwise. She believed in the strength of that letter, in the way Ellie had signed it. I'm sorry, I love you, I'll never forget you. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, just as the sun began to set behind a curtain of gray clouds, the call came. Maria was sitting on the couch with Daisy asleep on her lap when her phone buzzed with a number she didn't recognize. Her pulse quickened. She hesitated, then picked up. "Hello?" A pause, and then a soft, trembling voice. "Hi. Is this Maria?" Maria straightened. "Yes." "Is this Ellie?" Another pause. Then, "Yes." The sound of that single word, so fragile and laced with emotion, nearly brought Maria to tears. She looked down at Daisy, who had lifted her head and tilted it, ears perked. Somehow she knew. "I got your letter," Ellie whispered. I've read it every night since I found it. I didn't know if I should call. I didn't know if I deserved to." "Oh, Ellie," Maria said gently. "You do. You always did." I didn't want to let her go, but I thought I was losing everything. My home, my safety, my sanity. I thought maybe if I gave her a chance, with someone else. Her voice cracked. "I never stopped loving her." "She never stopped waiting for you," Maria replied. "She still sits by the window every day, like she knows you're coming back." A soft sob echoed on the line. "I'm doing better now," Ellie continued. "I got help. The shelter connected me with a therapist and a caseworker. I'm in a women's transitional home now. It's safe. I've started working again, just part-time at a bookstore. I've got a little room. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I think I'm ready to see her, if she wants to see me." "She does," Maria said, voice full of conviction. "Come tomorrow. I'll be here. We both will." The next morning dawned brighter than any Maria had seen in weeks. The clouds had parted and golden sunlight bathed the living room where Daisy now sat expectantly, ears twitching, tail thumping slowly. Maria had cleaned the apartment top to bottom. Not because she needed to impress Ellie, but because she wanted everything to feel warm, open, and welcoming. She brewed tea, baked banana bread, and placed a small vase of fresh flowers on the windowsill. It felt like preparing for family. At exactly 10:03 a.m., there was a soft knock at the door. Maria's heart raced as she approached and opened it slowly. There stood Ellie. She looked smaller than in the photo, thinner. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, and she wore an oversized gray hoodie and jeans that looked a little too big. But her eyes were the same. Deep, brown, searching, tired, but kind. And then Daisy barked. The little dog bolted from her spot by the window, skidding across the hardwood floor as she raced toward the door. For one agonizing second, she stopped, frozen in place. She looked up at Ellie, ears pulled back, body shaking, not with fear, but with disbelief. Ellie fell to her knees, arms open. "Daisy," she whispered. Daisy let out a whine, long, loud, and aching, and then leaped into her arms. The two collapsed into a heap on the doorstep. Ellie clutched her tightly, her body trembling as she sobbed into the soft fur. Daisy licked her cheeks, nuzzled her neck, and whimpered as if scolding her for leaving, forgiving her and thanking her all at once. Maria stood quietly at the doorway, tears streaking down her own cheeks. They stayed like that for minutes, tangled in a knot of fur and tears until Ellie looked up. "I thought she'd hate me," she said. "She could never," Maria replied softly. "You gave her everything you had, and when you couldn't give any more, you gave her a chance to survive. That's love, Ellie, the hardest kind." Ellie nodded, pressing her cheek against Daisy's head. "I missed you so much," she whispered to the dog. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again. But I see now. There are still good people in this world." Maria stepped back to give them space, then returned with 2 mugs of tea. She handed one to Ellie and motioned for her to sit on the couch, where Daisy quickly curled beside her. They talked for hours. Ellie told Maria about the boyfriend who slowly turned controlling, how she was cut off from her family, how she lost her job, her friends, and eventually her sense of self. She told her about the day she left the apartment with nothing but Daisy and the suitcase, how she'd sat in the airport for hours, hugging Daisy, writing that letter with tears that wouldn't stop. How she almost turned back 10 times but couldn't bear the thought of watching Daisy suffer any longer. Maria listened without judgment. She shared her own story too, of loneliness, loss, and the unexpected healing Daisy had brought into her life. By afternoon, the three of them were lying in the grass at the park near Maria's apartment. Daisy chased butterflies while the women watched, sipping tea from to-go cups and sharing quiet, peaceful smiles. "I don't want to take her away from you," Ellie said suddenly. "She loves you. She's safe here." Maria reached over and gently squeezed her hand. "You don't have to decide anything today, or tomorrow. We can figure this out together. Maybe she belongs to both of us now." Ellie looked over, her eyes filling again. "Really? Really?" They stayed until the sun began to set, casting golden light across the sky. Daisy flopped between them, belly up and content, her tiny paws twitching in a dream. And in that moment, under the fading light of a new beginning, three hearts, once broken by pain, loss, and separation, found something far stronger than sadness. They found healing. They found hope. They found home. Weeks turned into months, and what began as a heartbreaking story of abandonment transformed into a beautiful tale of resilience, redemption, and second chances. Ellie visited often, first on weekends, then during the week, slowly rebuilding trust with Daisy and with herself. With Maria's support, she continued therapy, found steady work, and moved into a pet-friendly apartment. When the time came to decide what was best for Daisy, it wasn't a choice between who she belonged to. It was a commitment between two women, both touched by Daisy's love, to raise her together. Daisy now had two homes, two mothers, and a whole world of love she once only dreamed of from inside a forgotten suitcase. Her story traveled far beyond the shelter walls. It reached thousands online, people who saw themselves in Ellie's struggle, in Maria's kindness, and in a little puppy's unwavering hope. At the shelter, a photo now hangs on the wall. Daisy in the middle, tongue out, tail wagging. Ellie, and Maria beside her, smiling wide. Underneath it, a simple caption reads, "Sometimes the love you lose leads you right to the love you need." And somewhere, in an airport crowded with goodbyes and reunions, a suitcase sits quietly in the corner. But this time, it's just luggage, because the heart that once shivered inside it has finally found her way home. If this story touched your heart like it touched ours, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps us share stories like Daisy's with more people who care. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true and emotional animal rescue stories where love, kindness, and second chances shine brightest. And in the comments below, tell us, what would you have done if you found that suitcase? We read every message, and your words matter.